You're gonna put that in the intro. I know you are.
Oh, I will. Ladies and gentlemen, make yourselves comfortable. I am Kent Garrison.
I'm Brian Gill.
And I'm Richard Bodden.
And this is Mad
About
Movies.
You sound insane. You realize that? Yeah. The whole world gone crazy! Ladies and germs! It's showtime.
Mad About Movies is a movie podcast where we break down movie news, movie insights, movie rumors, whatever you can think of in the cinematic world. And then at the end, we break down our movie of the week. So feel free to listen to the news portion of our show if you haven't seen our movie of the week, which is The Master. And if you have, then stick around as we break down Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master.
You are an everlasting spirit, Freddy.
I don't believe you. You make this up. I know you're trying to calm me down, but just say something that's true!
Are you thoughtless in your remarks? Do your past failures bother you? Is your life a struggle? Is your behavior erratic? What are you running from?
He's dangerous. And he will be our undoing if we continue to have him here.
Stay tuned after the movie of the week for our weekly recommends, which will be one thing that we each recommend for you guys to check out either on Netflix, maybe on TV, and maybe you might have to go down to the Blockbuster. So, guys, anything you guys want to mention off the top for movie news?
This is a special bonus episode,
Yeah,
first off.
y'all are
for
here
our
for
loyal-
history.
We like to reward our listeners here.
This is bonus. Yeah, this is bonus content. So big thank you to the listeners. We decided to go the extra mile tonight and knock it out. So anything you guys want to mention
personal.
right off the top?
No, it's lovely to be hearing from you guys again.
It's
Brian,
lovely,
you have any
guys.
movie news?
Dearly.
What's
Yeah,
going
I mean,
on
we
with the
didn't talk
soapbox
about
office?
we didn't talk about anything Star Wars related in the last podcast, so maybe we
Okay.
should.
All right.
change that.
Okay.
What-
Yeah.
Since this
I was
is
wondering
the,
why my veins were hurting.
yeah. The only thing I saw this week, Star Wars related, was Mark Hamill, the great Mark Hamill of Luke Skywalker fame, put it out there that George Lucas had asked him and or hinted at the fact that he wanted him to play a part in the upcoming Star Wars Episode 7.
Yeah.
So, what that led the internet to speculate was that Luke Skywalker would be returning in some sort of a grandfatherly / mentoring role similar to Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars A New Hope. So, if we went with that, we could expect that Star Wars would be set, this new one, Episode 7, would be set somewhere within 30 to 40 years in the future from the end of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Well, this is excellent news.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Kent, but this, if that's what happened, that to me is kind of my ideal of what I would want Episode 7 to be. Some sort of a cameo appearances or smaller appearances from the original cast and starting us off in a new era of Star Wars. That's kind of my...
Right.
If I got to choose what I wanted from Episode 7, that would be it, I think.
And
If you had your druthers.
Right.
Which druthers, by the way, is the name of a new character George Lucas thought up.
Right. He's Jar Jar
He's kind of
Binks'
a-
brother.
Yeah, his name's Druthers.
given, I actually heard maybe the opposite, not necessarily the opposite, but I heard that Harrison Ford actually committed first, or is already committed
Nice.
to
Yeah.
Episode 7.
Did
So
his
that's more surprising to me because Harrison Ford, I mean, he's got a lot on his plate. Let's be honest, and I don't know if Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher have a lot on their plate necessarily.
Sure.
They're probably been begging George Lucas to do Episode 7 forever.
Right.
So, and I agree with you. I mean, that's the ideal. It would be to return to that universe, but to reboot it in a way. And I've heard that you've probably heard the same thing, Brian, but that they're going to do maybe Star Wars, the Skywalker kids,
Yeah.
maybe Han's kids. So it's going to be a younger generation, but ultimately the same family, which that's what I want. I want it to be rebooted all of the Jar Jar Abrams' Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know how he had the younger cast. He rebooted, He had a younger, attractive cast. I mean, it was great, and I hope he can bring that youthful energy to Star Wars.
Sure.
What George Lucas so desperately was trying to go for in the prequels,
Right.
with Hayden Christensen, who bombed horribly,
Right.
and Jake Lloyd, who was just an abomination to
Right.
everything.
Worst
And so-
child actor ever.
and
Yeah.
you can't do worse than that. And so
No.
every news that comes out about this, I mean, I feel like every day it's just something. My mind is blown. I can't wait for this movie to actually start being filmed. I
Right.
can't imagine the stuff that we're going to be able to see behind the scenes. Man, it's going to be great.
We won't see any of it because it's Abrams. You probably won't even know that it
He'll show us
exists.
3 frames on Conan in
Oh.
2015.
Yeah, that's true. No, I'm talking about like plot details. I want to know.
Yeah.
know what it's going to be about. I mean, that's the main thing. And
Right.
and everybody will build it up in their own head, and it won't let us down. I mean, this is going to be the best Star Wars movie maybe ever. So that's my prediction. I honestly can't see how this movie's not going to be awesome at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, from all of the details I've heard so far. So
Yeah. Well,
And-
like I said, I think if they went if they go this direction, this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. This is a return to what we already know. There's a connection there to the good parts of the Star Wars universe, but rather than dwell in that with an aging Luke Skywalker and an aging Han Solo and all that, it's smart to have those characters around, but add in new, younger characters that we can start getting invested in a safe space. So that's if this is what ends up happening, I don't know if there's anything that true Star Wars fans could be more excited about. I mean, this is basically perfect.
I would just like to formally throw my name out there for Han Solo Jr. So anyone who knows anyone, get at me.
And I would like to play an Ewok.
And yeah, Brian, you'd make a good Ewok. You really would.
I want to be the Emperor's Junior. I want to be Junior Emperor. And I'm just,
Palpatine-
you know what?
Palpatine.
I've had everything handed to me, and I'm just kind of spoiled, but I'm
Yeah,
still
you're
evil.
You're just brooding. You're like a combination of
I'm
you're a
Emo
combination
Emperor.
of Joaquin Phoenix from Gladiator and Seth
Yeah.
Green from Austin Powers.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
yeah, I like that idea. You read a lot of Shakespeare.
I wanted to mention something else about Star Wars. There was one other thing that John Williams has said he wants to return. So that's great news.
Nice. I hadn't heard that. That's great. Yeah.
Jar Jar Abrams plus John Williams and minus George Lucas. Man,
Perfect. What more could you ask for?
Question, I know Harrison Ford has allegedly signed on. Has his earring signed on?
man, dude, Harrison Ford is going to be in Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Later this year. That's supposed to be great. So
Who's directing that?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I might have to look it up.
Well,
It stars Abigail Breslin, who's great. Gavin Hood is the director who did the X-Men Wolverine Origins movie.
yeah.
Actually,
The movie we just got done trashing,
We just
yeah.
got done trashing that in the last podcast. But yeah, you
Hey.
never know.
Brian, quick tangent. Have you noticed Rachel Nichols is way hotter on TNT than she was on ESPN? Everything's better on Turner.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
Continue. Go on.
suck at ESPN. Yeah.
Yeah, John Williams is coming back, so that's great. But you know the thing about this episode 7, I mean, J.J. Abrams has been thinking about this, since he even saw Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And he's been making movies however long since then. And he's been building it up in his own mind what he would want in episode 7.
Right.
So he's going to bring those ideas into the table along
Yeah.
with the Michael Art, who had probably already written the script. The script had probably already been done when he got hired. When
Right.
Abrams got hired. So I mean, Abrams wouldn't have said yes unless it was going to be great. I think
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has too much to lose with the Star Trek community. I think.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
Totally agree. Cool. Any other thing you guys want to mention for movie news?
Hey, yeah, I've got one more little
Cool.
blurb that I just saw earlier today. Have you guys seen the Rise of the Planet of the Apes from last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is actually what I was about to mention. I think. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they're casting the sequel, which is going to be called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and they cast the lead, and it's going to be Jason Clarke, who played kind of the lead interrogator in Zero Dark 30, which he's a very good actor. I've seen him in several other things and thought he was excellent. But Zero Dark 30 was kind of his coming out party as a really good, potentially star caliber or leading man caliber performance. So I think that's interesting news. I think that's an improvement over Franco, at least in my opinion. So
you have a lot of disdain for James Franco. Is there
I
reasons?
like
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this right now.
Yeah.
'Cause I have another
Sure.
James Franco thing I want to mention. So go ahead.
Sure. I think James Franco is, when he's on, he's very good. I don't think he's great. There's something that kind of grates on me about him, and sometimes I can't really put my finger on it. But when he's on, he's really good. But this whole bit of I'm going to take whatever role comes my way, whatever I feel like doing, has worn on me because I think it's gone past that point. At first it was, hey, I'm going to be on General Hospital because I think it'd be fun. You know what I mean? And that was cool, and I respect that. Now I think it's gotten to a point of, it feels like to me almost every movie he takes, it's a paycheck role, and he'll do anything that anybody will give him money for. And I definitely feel like he phones in about half of his performances. He's not somebody who you can just say, hey, James Franco is in this, so it's going to be good, in my opinion.
I totally agree. But I feel like he just takes paychecks. But
yeah.
But those types of movies that he just takes paychecks, he makes it obvious to the audience that, hey, I'm just taking a paycheck. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to like I would, for example, the movie Your Highness.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you know.
Yeah. I guess to me, it's that some people can pull that off because they have a certain charm or charisma. Like we talked about Bruce Willis a little bit in our last podcast. Bruce Willis can pretty much take any role. A, I'm going to see it, and B, I'll even if it's a terrible movie, I'll usually give him the benefit of the doubt because, as you say, he's kind of got this attitude of, well, it's a paycheck, y'all can just deal with it. But he does it in a more charismatic way for me than Franco. Franco, there's something about him that I guess just rubs me the wrong way a little bit at times. Now, again, he can be great. 127 Hours, he's incredible in that movie. I think he's good in the first two Spider-Man movies. There's other things, right? I think he's enjoyable in. But he just doesn't. I don't know. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is an example to me because of how lackluster he is to me. Because I thought that movie was incredible from a special effects standpoint. I love that they were able to accomplish all that they were with their fairly limited budget. And it should have been better, and it would have been better with an actor who I gave a rip about, if that makes any sense. Franco just didn't inspire me in any way in that movie. So I don't know. I'd like to be proven wrong with Franco, and I definitely, like I said, I think he's definitely capable of great things. But I feel like more often than not, it's lackluster. So
all good analysis there. I'll say that he, in my opinion, is too talented for his own good. He's obviously a brilliant actor. Hugely popular and is extremely famous and has the capability of Academy Award quality performances if he wanted to, pretty much every role, and he knows it too.
Sure.
I kind of like how he picks and chooses. I like actors that don't stick to one thing, and I like actors that do stuff just for fun.
Right.
I think that's just me though. But apparently his next movie is Spring Breakers. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for this. Yeah. But he plays a rapper named Alien, a white rapper,
Yeah.
and apparently this is like Academy Award worthy performance. And they almost released it in December because they wanted him to maybe have a shot this year, but they probably just saw the lineup of actors and I thought it has a better shot next year. But he's very talented. I will say that. But I will say that he does phone it in, but to me it's not a big deal because I don't know. It's just not.
Yeah. But like I said, I think that whether it's an upgrade or not, I think Jason Clarke. I'm excited to see him. Yeah, I'm excited to see him get an opportunity to be the guy in a movie rather than the supporting player. And I loved the original series of the Planet of the Apes when I was a kid. Yeah. And so I'm excited to see where this can go. And It seems cool. It's being directed by Matt Reeves, who did Cloverfield. So it's got a cool vibe to it. So I was excited to see the casting choice there. That's good stuff.
Agree. And if you listen to our Zero Dark 30 episode, you know we praised him before we ever knew that he got this job. So it's great news, and very worthy. And yeah, Chris Pratt got the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I mean, and Chastain's. I mean, she blew up too. So I mean, that's it. Just shows you what a good film will do for you.
Right.
Richard, anything you want to mention? Movie news?
No, not at all. We covered it.
Right
well
on.
done.
Right on. Well, stay tuned for our review of The Master. Hey, what's up, Ma'am Fam? Kent here. And yes, if you're hearing from me, you know it's time to talk about Blue Apron. If you haven't tried out Blue Apron by now, what the heck are you even doing? Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. They deliver fresh meals straight to your door. All the food is fresh, it's sourced from local farms, and there's no wasted ingredients. I've been a Blue Apron subscriber for a long time now, and they have still, to this day, never let me down. There's tons of variety. Some featured upcoming meals include summer vegetable and egg paninis, soy glazed pork and rice cakes, skillet vegetable chili with cheddar drop biscuits, holy crap, and garlic butter shrimp and corn with green bean salad. So take it from me. Try out Blue Apron now. Go to blueapron.com/mad. That's blueapron.com/mad. Get 3 meals on us for free. Nothing goes better with a movie than dinner. So check out Blue Apron. blueapron.com/mad. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Hey, Ma'am Fam, question for you. Do you own a small business, or are you a boss? Are you looking to hire awesome people, but you just can't find somebody to fill that role? Well, let me tell you about ZipRecruiter.com. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100+ job sites, all with one click. In fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. Right now, you can post your jobs for free on ZipRecruiter by going to ZipRecruiter.com/mad. That's ZipRecruiter.com/mad. One more time, try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/mad. Thanks to ZipRecruiter for supporting this episode of the Mad About Movies podcast.
How did I get down here? You're acting aggressive because you drank too much alcohol.
What do you do?
I am a writer, a doctor, a nuclear physicist, a theoretical philosopher. But above all, I am a man, just like you.
All right, guys. Well, this movie, let me just say this, that when 2012, in 2011, when I was looking at the list of movies for 2012, I circled or highlighted this movie. And waited pretty much all year for it to come out. I waited through all the treacherous awfulness of last spring and winter, minus a few highlights. That being Chronicle mainly and Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Before I'm talking about stuff like before Avengers came out.
Sure.
Or around the time the Avengers came out. And so this is probably the first drama that I looked forward to all year. And so I circled it, and we were lucky enough to live in the Dallas area, so we got to see it because it was only in theaters for a very short time, and it blew my mind in a lot of ways, and good and bad. So, what do you guys think, Brian?
Yeah, I think, man, it's hard for me even to put my thoughts together for this movie. It's very complex. I went back because it's been so long since I've seen the movie. I went back and read my own review of it just to kind of remind myself of what was going on. And it's a movie that I analyzed. I wrote a review. I critiqued it and whatnot. And even at the time, I said, I'm not 100% sure that I understood what was happening here. So, take that as you will. It's a very complex movie, as are all P.T. Anderson movies. There's so much going on there. that you find yourself having to decide whether you're going to delve into all the deep symbolic meanings that are held within, or whether you're just going to look at it at face value. It's incredibly well crafted. It's an incredibly well made film. It's not a movie that I loved. It's not a movie that I loved, and it's probably not a movie that I'm going to see again.
Really? Ever?
As I feel that way towards most of PTA's movies. I think he's an incredible filmmaker, but other than There Will Be Blood, I don't think I've ever seen any of his movies a second time. And I could be off on that. Now I'm trying to think back through his collection of films, but it's very. I think Kent and I talked about this on the radio a few weeks ago, but it's very cold to me. As are most of his movies. I feel like he takes a very cold is the only word I can think of. A very cold approach to filmmaking, in which it's almost like a documentary in a way. He's letting the camera tell the story, and there's not just a whole lot of, in my opinion, there's not a whole lot of actual narrative to this film. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's just that it didn't sit with me in such a way that I want to go back and watch it over and over and over again. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. It does make sense. Richard, thoughts?
Well, I'm a big Anderson fan of Anderson's. Unlike Brian, I do rewatch a lot of his movies. I've seen Boogie Nights 50 plus times probably.
Okay.
Which I don't know if I'm proud of or not.
You're a star.
I've seen yeah, Kent and I wrote a parody of that was stolen by others, but and then I've seen Punch Drunk Love a lot, which I really love. Might be my favorite of all of his movies. I've seen There Will Be Blood a few times. The Master, first time I say I really like the movie. The performances are really good. It's an interesting subject matter. It's interesting the way it tells that story and kind of attacks that subject matter without being deliberate or really obvious about anything. There's some art to that. I will say granted, I've only seen the film once, so I need to rewatch it. Like I rewatched a lot of his other work, but it's probably it's not my favorite movie of his. It's not my least favorite either, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I know I like it. I just don't know whether I know it's at least an 8. I'm still not sure if it's a 9 or 10 yet, and it may be. I just need to rewatch it a few more times.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, like I said, I've only seen it once, and it probably is a movie that you need to see a couple of times to really to properly understand what all is going on and make a judgment on it. So that's, in some ways that's probably to my detriment that I'm probably not going to watch it again. But it is, it's a tough movie to analyze in a lot of ways. And I think, again, in my review, I think I said, I really don't know exactly what's happening here. And it's hard for me to judge that and say, kind of like Richard said, it's from a filmmaking standpoint, it's an 8. Is it a 9 or a 10? I don't think so, but maybe another viewing or 2 viewings or 6 viewings would cement that in my mind. But if I'm being honest, I'm probably not going to watch it again. So
fair opinion. Let me just say that I saw this in a second time, and I hadn't seen it since September, and I watched it probably a week ago.
Uh-huh.
And it really cemented for me that Joaquin Phoenix, hands down, had the best performance of 2012. Wow. Daniel Day-Lewis gets so much credit when people talk about Lincoln for his physical transformation.
Mm-hmm.
in that role, and I really think that Joaquin Phoenix just destroys him on every level as far as physical transformation for this movie. I mean, he looks sickly, absolutely sickly in his face. He the way he walks and the physical toll that he puts his body through during this movie is incredible. The climbing up the trees, hanging upside down, the fighting, the scene, most memorable scene for me maybe in the movie. The fighting scene where he's taking the picture in the Dillard's or in the department store.
Yeah.
And he starts to, this isn't a spoiler, but he starts to get in a fight with the guy he's taking a picture of. And that entire sequence is done in one shot, one solid take. And they legitimately beat the tar out of each other in that take. And it's really Joaquin Phoenix, doing the stunts. And you can tell, that was probably something they can only do one or a couple times. Incredible. And another example is when, maybe I should say this for spoilers, but let's just say Philip Seymour Hoffman's character and Joaquin Phoenix's character are in cells, if that makes sense. Jail cells. It's not a spoiler to say that.
No. I don't think there's any way you could spoil
this. No, that's true. Even if you've seen it, you still won't know, really.
Yeah.
But Joaquin Phoenix's character just hits his head on this bed, this bunk bed, and he is absolutely, destroying his body on this bunk bed.
Yeah.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is just standing there watching him do it. And you're sitting there in the audience, or at least I was, thinking to yourself, almost screaming at the screen, stop, please, before you hurt yourself. You're an actor. You're a pro actor.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to make any more movies if you keep, if you destroy your face or something. That's how I felt during this movie. Like, you didn't know how far Joaquin Phoenix was going to take it, or PTA was going to take it. And I thought it was incredible. The second time I saw it, it just blew my mind, even just as much as the first time I saw it. And I really think it was the best performance of the year. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I can. I'll say this: the movie as a whole is not my favorite movie of the year, and not one that I really want to, like I said, want to watch again. The performances are undeniably incredible. I walked out and thought, I'm not going to see a better performance than I just saw from Phoenix for the rest of the year, and I might vote. If I had to vote for Best Actor, I would probably vote for Daniel Day-Lewis, but even as I cast my vote, I might not feel good about it because what Joaquin Phoenix is doing is incredible. You're absolutely right on every level. I have a theory about that I think I've spoken about before, but I have a theory about 30 Rock that Tracy Morgan didn't know that he was being filmed for a TV show. Or maybe he thought that he was going to be in like a documentary or something, and he just acted like his normal life. And to me, that's the key to 30 Rock, is understanding that Tracy Morgan's crazy and therefore his character is crazy. And that helped me appreciate the show in the early stages, before I really got into it. I have the same theory. This is the dramatic equivalent to me of Joaquin Phoenix, who very well may be insane. And the stuff that he puts himself through in this movie made you wonder if if he is mentally capable of understanding what he's doing to himself,
right, yeah.
And B, if he really knew that there was a movie going on, or if he was just acting like a crazy person as he does in his normal day-to-day life. It's method acting to a ridiculous level, an unsafe level, quite honestly. And he's incredible. It's just, he's a very talented, very, very talented actor. There's no question. Gladiator, he's great in Gladiator. Even little movies like Signs, that a lot of people bag on, he's very good in that.
Signs, yeah.
He's an excellent actor, and this is, to me, I would say this is the height of what he can do. You know what I mean? This is it. I don't know. He could act for 40 more years and do 40 more films, and he's probably, I don't think he'll ever top what he's done here. And he's not alone. They got 3 nominations. They're all for acting, one for Joaquin Phoenix, one for Philip Seymour Hoffman, and one for Amy Adams. And all 3 of them are so well deserved. They're all really, really great performances. And so I would say, while I don't love the film, and while I don't think it's a 9 or a 10 or an A+ or whatever you want to call it, the performances certainly are up to that level, without question. So sorry for dominating the last 18 minutes of this podcast, but somebody else.
I will say this: you made a good point that I feel the same way. I think I've maybe mentioned this before, that I don't think Joaquin Phoenix will ever have a better performance in his career than The Master. I really don't. After seeing the type of actor he is and his level, I mean, the way his personality is, I feel like this character was made for him.
Right.
Even though it wasn't. I mean, I've heard that Jeremy Renner was supposed to be the original cast there. Wow. So that might have been interesting. But anyway, having said that, it is probably Joaquin's best performance.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way about Daniel Day-Lewis at all. I don't feel like Lincoln is his best performance or his top 3, maybe. I think that Gangs of New York and There Will Be Blood are better. And I think that My Left Foot is better.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I don't think that he deserves the Best Picture Oscar, knowing that Joaquin Phoenix is right there with the best performance of his whole career. Yeah. And he's been nominated and he's never won, and it would be very deserving if he won the award, I think. So my vote would go to him. I could see why. I see Daniel Day-Lewis as the popular pick. I see Joaquin as the underdog. But I think even Daniel Day-Lewis mentioned it in his SAG Awards speech. He gave nods to Joaquin because it's just even everyone. This is a movie, The Master, that Hollywood is crazy about. I mean, every director, actor, anyone that makes movies loves this film, and that's probably all of PTA's work. You could say that about, but I feel like this movie was way underappreciated.
Yeah, well, I think I've started to see the underratedness or the underappreciatedness or whatever you want to call it of The Master making the rounds lately. It seems like the last couple of weeks, more and more people have gotten screeners or have gotten a chance to see it a second time or something. I've seen a ton of, if not outrage, then just comments about how this movie got left out of all the nominations for everything other than the acting. And I agree with that. It probably should have been a Best Picture nomination.
And hands down. It's insulting that they're like, no, we'll stop at 9 this year. No, we don't. There's nothing that was even close to being worthy. And how can you? I don't see how they can say that about this movie.
Yeah,
it's the 3 lead performances are all nominated for their best actor. I mean, how can that not be a great? I mean, what's so? I guess because this movie stands for something that it didn't get. I don't see why it got nominated. Richard, what are your thoughts on why it didn't get nominated for Best Picture?
I have no answer for that. I guess I think it had an odd release date. It was maybe a little early.
Maybe.
Yeah. Kind of in that gap. It came out in September, if I'm correct. It was kind of the first.
It did set the record for like biggest opening ever for a indie movie.
Yeah.
It averaged. I mean, it was only on like 4 screens, and it averaged like $150,000 per screen. I mean, that like shattered the record. Like it was supposed to be like this huge movie that just didn't live up to the hype. Yeah.
So it kind of was the first of the Oscar contenders to come out. So there's always that forgetfulness, the selective amnesia of the electorate. Other than that, I mean, that's the only thing I can conjure up. I certainly think it deserved a nomination. It's certainly one of the 10 best movies of the year. and just for the performances alone, and it's
Right.
beautifully shot. We haven't discussed that. I mean, the cinematography
Yeah.
is fantastic.
And insulting that it didn't get nominated.
Yeah,
Insulting
I agree.
For cinematography.
Yeah.
And just the first frame of the movie deserves a nomination. And
Yeah.
you'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen this film.
Yeah. I would say as a reason for why it wasn't nominated for more than for Best Picture or for anything else, I think the argument, if I had to make an argument, I would say that it is that the sum of the parts are greater than the whole for me. That the acting is incredible, that the cinematography is incredible, the script is probably very strong, the score is great. All of those individual parts are great to range from great to, in Joaquin Phoenix's case, basically legendary. I mean, that's an incredible, that's worthy of being an iconic performance. All of those things together, when you bring them all together, like I said, it's a little bit cold, it's a little off-putting, and I don't know. I'll tell you this: I don't know what the purpose of the movie is, and I wonder if maybe that's what, that's why it didn't resonate so much with the voters as they were going. And this is a great year for film, as we've said before. So you have stronger contenders than you get in a normal year, and I do question whether or not it resonates from a purpose level, and if that's what ended up being the death knell, if you will.
That's interesting perspective. I'll say that. I can't. I don't know. People that know PTA's work,
Sure.
will say that he's not a filmmaker that. How should I say this? Doesn't put it all out there.
Right.
He's gonna give you everything that you love about a movie. A great score, great acting, great script, but he's not gonna the ending is not gonna be like, oh, everyone gets along happy and we're gonna go home
Right.
and we're all gonna have a good time. It's not that. That's not that's not the kind of filmmaker he is.
Right.
I think this movie is so like you said at the beginning, you don't know if you're going to rewatch it because it didn't offer. Did you say it didn't offer you much to think about, or
No, I mean it offered a whole lot
it
to think
didn't
about.
make you feel good? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's
It offered too much.
I keep saying it's cold, and I wish I could think of a better adjective for that, but it's very. He lays it all. You're right. Nothing that PTA does is laid out in a way that makes it easy. Everything he does is challenging. Let's put it that way. And I think that by the end of it, I was maybe done with being challenged. If that, I don't know. This is a film like I think we talked about before when we were discussing whether or not we were gonna review it. It's hard for me to even put into words really how I feel, because on every level I know that this is a great movie, that it should be one of the 5 best movies of the year, and yet I don't love it. I don't really want to see it again, and I guess I understand how it got left out, even at the same time of not really even being able to say a definite reason. And that frustrates me, because I feel like I'm usually pretty good at putting into words what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, but it's a movie that doesn't resonate, and at least for me, and I wonder if more voters who, people who actually have a vote in this felt that same way.
Maybe so. I feel like Richard, and I felt like this movie I wanted to analyze. I want to watch it. I want to know what's being said, and it really intrigues me. And the scenes, for example, the scene with Lancaster Dodd, who's Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's interrogating, I guess, Freddie Quell. And I played the clip at the beginning of the podcast, but he's literally drilling him with questions over and over and over again. And it might be the most quoted moment or the most recognizable scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. But just that scene and the interaction between Jess Lancaster Dodd and Freddie Quell are seen, just relationships like that. And what PTA has done there that's why I go to the movies for those types of moments, it's such a commentary on society. Even the fact that Freddie Quell is drinking this substance the whole movie that you don't know what it is, but he's drinking the Kool-Aid, as it will,
right?
And it's such a satire on cults and the Scientology thing. Yeah.
It's certainly Joaquin Phoenix is his family was in the Children of God cult California when he was growing up. He's a child of cult behavior. So speaking again to his performance and how we may never see a performance of this caliber from him again, it's a movie where he's almost tailor made for.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Totally, yeah. It's a movie that I don't know if I enjoy. I will agree with you there, Brian. But it is a movie that I do want to see multiple times. And PTA's work they're all long. They're all long movies, and they're movies that I do want to watch. I visit maybe once a year, each one, just to keep it fresh in my mind. And anytime he releases a new one, I try to go back and watch the repertoire. But this movie didn't let me down. Let me just say that, because I was anticipating it a lot, and it was definitely deserving of a nomination.
Sure,
agreed.
Any other thoughts on The Master, guys?
No, that's all I've got.
That's about it for me.
That's all we've got. Cool. Hey, well, stay tuned right now for short weekly recommends.
Sure.
Okay, Brian, anything you want to recommend?
Yeah. Okay, I watched I've been catching up on all the mostly indie movies and documentaries, things like that I missed from 2012. And I did just watch one this week called Perks of Being a Wallflower. Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is adapted
is this
from.
Is this the Jacob Dylan documentary?
I wish. Gosh, I love that first Wallflowers album.
Man.
So great.
6th Avenue Holiday. Yeah.
No, this is based on the book that I think a lot of people have read at some point or another. It's the somewhat classic coming of age story. Right. And it stars Logan Lerman, who was in the Percy Jackson movie, Emma Watson from Harry Potter fame, and a few other recognizable faces. It's Paul Rudd's in it. It's not a movie that I loved. I saw it in the top 10 for a lot of people that I respect, and I can understand why it didn't completely hit home for me, and I felt like it was a little bit forced at times. But for the most part, it's very well acted. The story is one that, for the most part, I think most people can understand, at least where the kids come. He's kind of the main character is a freshman or sophomore in high school, and he's a major loner and has a bunch of issues, and so it like I said, it's forced a little bit at times, but it comes together very nicely. It's not a happy story. There's a lot of hurt and pain within this kid's life, and some of that doesn't come through until the very end. But it's very well put together and well acted, and it's definitely worth looking at if you haven't seen it yet.
Cool. So is it? It just came out on DVD?
Yeah, I think about maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that. I watched it earlier this week, or maybe the end of last week. I had to rent it. It's not on Netflix yet, but it's worth seeking out. It's a movie that we could probably do a podcast on. There's a you could have some conversations about everything that happens within, and we enjoy that. So
great. Perks of Being Wallflower is available now. I've been wanting to check that one out. So good recommendation, Richard.
Sure. I'm gonna break the seal into our first book recommendation. We've done
book nerd alert.
Yeah. So the new my favorite modern American author, contemporary,
Jewel, right?
Yeah. Who'd you say?
Jewel.
Oh, yeah. I said Brian the other day, I went to Barnes & Noble looking for a book of poetry. They didn't have it, of course, but they did have Jewel's book of poetry from the mid-'90s because America requires it.
She's the voice of a generation.
She lived in a van, Brian.
My
she lived in a van.
hands are small, I know, but they're not yours. They are mine.
Is that Wordsworth?
They're
is that
yours.
Jewel? I didn't know. Anyway, the author I'm speaking of is a guy by the name of David Shields. He's a professor at the University of Washington. I wouldn't say he's hugely known. I kind of happened onto him, honestly, about 3 years ago. And another author I like tweeted a link to this book, and it looked interesting. This book was called Reality Hunger. I got the book, I read the book, and then I just went back and read everything this guy's done. And he writes this really interesting. They're not really memoir. They're sort of collages of memories from his life. He was his parents were both these sort of countercultural liberals in San Francisco. He grew up playing basketball, and he grew up with a severe stutter, and then went on to become a talented professor and writer. But I like him because he takes a very elevated, very academic view of things. However, the things he chooses to take a view of are often sort of silly. There's a book he wrote about 15 years ago now, called Black Planet, which is just he bought season tickets to the Seattle Supersonics. He went to every game and he wrote about it. Just kind of interesting.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, he has a new book out called How Literature Saved My Life. It's excellent.
Nice.
Just finished it the other day, and it's about it's kind of the same sort of thing he always does. He weaves in and out of biography and criticism of other authors and fiction, and kind of tells this whole story all in a weird little book. So it's a quick read. It's a good read. I haven't been let down by him yet. David Shields. Let's get the word out on this guy. He's excellent. And that's my recommendation for the week.
Great.
Awesome.
David Shields, check that out. My recommendation, this past week I saw a movie, and it was a movie that I have been meaning to see in its initial theatrical run. And that movie is called Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys seen it?
Yeah, dude. I love Wreck-It Ralph.
I have
Richard,
not
you see
seen
Wreck-It
it.
Ralph?
No, I haven't, but I've only heard good things.
Well,
My main man Corolla's in it, so I gotta like it.
Nice, yeah. Well, as of right now, it is at the Dollar Theater, so that's where I checked it out. And this movie is awesome. It's funny because you hear a lot about this movie being Pixarian, if you will. But this movie it's funny that Disney's more Pixar than Pixar, and Pixar is more Disney than Disney now.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it was a weird year.
It was a really weird year. So, I mean, it's funny because, Pixar is kind of failing on all these sequels that they've been doing, like the Cars 2, and you never know how Monsters, Inc. 2 is going to turn out. But, I mean, it seems like they're struggling for a creative idea. And but there are aspects of Wreck-It Ralph that I will say are ripped directly from Pixar. I mean, it seems like they were like, okay, how can we make a Toy Story that's not Toy Story? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's very entertaining. If you like video games, I will say that I'm very... I'm not a gamer. I wouldn't call myself a gamer, but I didn't really grow up, I would say, as video games didn't really influence me growing up.
Sure.
Same here.
Same
here too.
So I mean, I recognize some of the references, but there's so much pop culture references in this movie, and so much product placement, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that because I didn't grow up as a gamer either, and that's kind of what's kept me from the movie because I knew it was good, but I didn't know if it was something I could really appreciate with my limited, Mario Kart experience.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, it rips from Toy Story in ways. It's not bad ways, but ways such as the games basically come alive when the arcade closes. And
right.
The characters come alive inside the game, and their biggest fear is to go out of order. Right. Same way Toy Story's their biggest fear is to go in the attic or to get sold in a garage sale. So they always have this big looming fear that it's completely out of their control. And so right when the arcade closes, all the arcade games awaken, just like in Toy Story. When the people leave the room, the toys, they wake up. And I like stuff like that. It takes something in real life and makes they kind of animate the non-animate objects, the inanimate objects.
Zombification.
But there's very funny pop culture in this movie. Most notably, there's a Oreo cookies reference in it that's very funny. You know what I'm talking about, Brian? With the Wizard of Oz and the Oreos.
Yeah.
And there's a Diet Coke and a Mentos like volcano.
Right.
I mean, just funny stuff like that you would
check it out.
Yeah, very funny, so very smart too. Really intelligent movie. Very, very Pixarian. So
I think I have seen all the best animated feature nominees except for Frankenweenie, and my favorite was probably Wreck-It Ralph or Paranorman.
Yeah. I would say by far
if one of those wins, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I think that comes out on DVD next week. So
yeah,
nice.
the week after next, March 5th, I think.
Cool. Well, Richard, where can I find you online, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at Richard Barden or at richardbarden.com.
Brian.
I'm at bgill12 on Twitter and at thesoapboxoffice.com for movie shenanigans.
And what about you, Kent? Where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter at Kent Garrison, KENTGARRISON, and you can email the show at madaboutmoviespodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook. Just search for Mad About Movies Podcast. And, send all suggestions, topics there. Subscribe on iTunes. Find us on Stitcher. And please leave a comment and leave us a review. And thanks for listening. Until next week, we will see you guys at the cinema.